are some of the big, opportunities here? If companies can get this all together, if they can work out governance issues, what are some of the huge opportunities here? Judith, what's your take on that?
So one of the interesting examples that I've been looking at lately is IBM Watson. What's very interesting about that is it's based on you leverage a lot of data, and you're looking to be able to make decisions based on everything from artificial intelligence, natural language processing, and looking at a lot of the issues around context of data. So they have created. This was obviously introduced as a pilot with the Jeopardy game, and when you think about having a lot of data about whatever is happening in the world, and you have to answer questions, you got to continue to learn from the knowledge you put into this and be able to take that and then continue to learn and understand when you have a pun, or if somebody says, uses a phrase that has a very specific context, the house burned down. What does, did the house burn up? Did it burn down? What's the difference in that? So so Watson, as applied to the medical industry, healthcare, you have lots of different symptoms of a disease, and you could use something like Watson to say, based on looking at lots of data, there are 20 cases that had these exact symptoms, and these were the outcomes in those situations. So it really gives you the opportunity to perhaps solve problems that, if you just had to ask around, has anyone seen anything like this, might have taken, months and months.
Fern, opportunities, and I guess part of the question is, do the opportunities justify all the expense and or trouble that a company would go to? Is there really some sort of a magic pot at the end of the rainbow here, really, after all the money is spent?
Well, I think so. Definitely the value is definitely there. In terms of the opportunities, the short-term opportunity is, I think a lot of it's around understanding behaviors, whether that's like customer behavior, machine behavior, whatever type of behavior you're talking about, to do things like preventative maintenance or, understand your customers better. Certainly, there's been studies that show that companies that are strong on analytics, are more profitable, and, that there is a big value there. But, down the road also, one of the opportunities strategically, I think, is going to be in terms of new business models and new services that companies can be offering. It's going to be a real competitive sort of differentiator. Like take that example, that auto manufacturer, right, that was collecting the telemetric data and doing preventative maintenance. They could offer a service to their customers that sends them, they go through, they're chugging through, they're getting all the sensor data, they're seeing the patterns, they're saying, oh, this model with this many miles, it looks like there's a high probability that that's going to have this sort of problem. And then, send out alerts, text alerts to the people that have those cars, with supposedly that mileage based on some algorithm, that they should come in for, for service. That's an revenue opportunity.
And if you think about the example of Toyota when they were having problems with the floor mats where cars were accelerating, if they had a lot of data available to them in a big data solution, they might have figured out, much quicker that there was a problem, and could have avoided all the expense and the bad publicity they got when in fact there was a specific causation for that.
Right, and that's the same. Actually, Judith brings up this point. I mean, that the Ford, I think, with the tires blowing out, a number of years ago, was something that text analytics vendors used to show that if text analytics had been applied to this data, that they would have been able to see it from the NTSB. I think it was the NTSB, or so whatever the automotive equivalent of that is, from that data. So we weren't calling it big data at that point, but it certainly is a big data problem, that there are operational efficiencies and all sorts of cost avoidance and everything else that you can get from big data analytics.
You use the phrase text analytics, Fern. I just want to make sure. Could you give a brief definition of that?
So text analytics is, Judith was alluding to it earlier, it's actually a way, it's a series of algorithms, use natural language processing, statistics, other sorts of techniques to actually take text data and then extract from the text entities or concepts or themes, like, I can extract names and dates and concepts like unhappy customer, that sort of thing. And I'm actually taking unstructured text and making it structured, and then I can use that, leverage that structured data and analyze it. So when Marcia was talking about social media analysis, when Judith was talking about, customer complaints, all of that, is text data that you can run text analytics over it, structure it, pull out the pieces of information, that you can then use to analyze to gain insight. That's basically, companies that are using text data now as part of their big data solutions. They're either using text analytics or they're using, they're writing code to actually pull out pieces of, structured data from semi-structured, types of data. People will say there's no such thing as unstructured data, but every even text has a format. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about the fact that you're trying to extract you're trying to extract names and dates and addresses and from customer complaints that you're extracting, gas pedal sticks, the word sticks or gas pedal, and that you're seeing gas pedal, a million
and some of the analytics that you'll want to apply to that is to know the difference when somebody says, it sticks, which means that they dropped a piece of candy on their floor mat versus the pedal is sticking. Right. And those nuances are going to be important in understanding when somebody says, I'm unhappy because they're having a bad day at work, or I'm unhappy because you didn't deliver the product you promised me you would deliver.